When God came to Avraham Avinu and he told him, take your son Yitzchak to the Akedah, to sacrifice him to me, to Korban, sacrifice. This is what he said to him. Kach na, take please, et bincha, your son. So Avraham said to him, which son? I have two. He said, Yechidcha, no, you have one. But he had really two. He had Yitzchak and he had Ismael. But God answered him, no, your only son. Asher ahavta, that you love. He said, I love both of them. So he said, Yitzchak, 4 times. Your son, the one you love, the son, your only son, the one you love, Yitzchak. Each time God say a sentence, Avraham answer an answer. He said to him first time, Yitzchak, your son. He said, which son? He said, the one you love. He said, I love both of them. First mistake. You should have understand what God says. He said to him, I love both of them. He said, the only son. He said, I have two. He said, Yitzchak. Beyitzchak ikare lecha zera. Every verse in the book of God is critical here. That's it. Nobody can ever change it in history. No wars would change God's decision. Nothing. What did he say to Avraham? And the Arabs read it in the Torah, and soon I'm going to tell you the reaction to it. They read in the Torah, he say, Beyitzchak ikare lecha zera. Your descendants is from Yitzchak only, not from Ishmael. Ishmael come from the Goya, from Hagar. Is not your descendants. Yitzchak is your descendants. It says that God said to Abraham that his only son is Yitzchak. And he should take Yitzchak to bring him as a sacrifice. And it says in Ishmael is not good. But we are from Ishmael. So why we say that the Jews are not the chosen people anymore and we give them hard time? Some Arabs ask this question. So what's the answer? Who knows? What's the answering? The answering, the Jews are liars. That's the same answer in every Arab country. The Jews are liars. They fake the Torah. They modify the Torah. It used to be Ishmael. God said to Abraham to take Ishmael to the Akedah, to the sacrifice. The Jews erased it and they made it Yitzchak. What do you think? Is this a logical, clever answer, or it's a very foolish answer? What do you think? What do you think? No, as intelligent people who think, use their head.
Genesis 16:16 describes how Abraham was 86 years old when Ishmael was born to his wife. Hagar bore Ishmael when Abraham was 86 years old. Now, pay attention, because in Genesis 21:5, Abraham is 100 years old when Isaac was born to him. Skip down to Genesis. In Genesis 21:8, Isaac grew and was weaned. Now, how many years does this put between Isaac and Ishmael? In one verse, we are told that Abraham was 86 when Ishmael was born to Hagar. In another verse, we're told that he was 100 when Isaac was born to Sarah. 100 minus 86, let's see, 10 minus the 6, carry the 9, 14, okay? Comes out to 14. Then we're told in Genesis 21:8 that Isaac was weaned. Tradition in the Middle East is that weaning takes 2 years. So now we have a 14-year difference between Isaac and Ishmael. Isaac has been weaned for 2 years, so that means Ishmael is now what? 14 plus 2? You got it, 16 years old. Fine, so far, if you don't look into it too deeply. But let's work on down to Genesis 21:14 through 19, which tells the story of Ishmael and his mother when they were allegedly cast out. Now remember, at this point, Ishmael cannot be less than 16 years old. The 14-year difference between when he was born and when Isaac was born, 2 more years for weaning, 16-year-old youth. And yet, what do we find in Genesis 21, 14 through 19. Let me read it to you, and you pick out for me the passages which don't match the description of a 16-year-old. Quote, "So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water, and putting it on his shoulder, he gave it and the boy to Hagar." Okay, I'm cheating. I said, you tell me, but I guess I'm going to underline with my voice. "And sent her away. Then she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water in the skin was used up, and she placed the boy under one of the shrubs." Placing a 16-year-old boy under a shrub, and he stays there? Interesting. "Then she went and sat down across from him at a distance of about a bow shot. For she said to herself, 'Let me not see the death of,'" you got it, "the boy." What is the situation here? They've run out of water in the desert. She has put Ishmael under a shrub and walked away from him because she does not want to, quote, "see the death of the boy." Are we to believe that a 16-year-old Ishmael could not crawl out from underneath the shrub, as if a mother could force a 16-year-old under a shrub in the first place, and he, for some reason, could not walk over to his mother and say, "Hey, Mom, what's going on? What are you doing?" But this is what we're told to believe. "So she lifted her voice and wept," quote, "and God heard the voice of the lad." The lad, the boy. "Then the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven and said to her, 'What ails you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in your hand.'" Now, skepticism begins to set in here. Here we have Hagar allegedly being told to lift up 16-year-old Ishmael and hold him with her hand. Quote, "For I will make for him a great nation." Well, then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the skin with water and gave the, well, you can guess it, gave the lad a drink, as if he was not capable of getting it for himself. An inconsistency? Most definitely. One that jumps out at you? One that jumps out at us? Well, when we're told about it. But not the kind of inconsistency that is easy to discover. However, once discovered, we've got to deal with it. How do you deal with an Old Testament that claims to be Scripture, and yet it describes a 16-year-old youth as being incapacitated?
What do you think? No, as intelligent people who think, use their head.
Remember, we are talking about a time and a nation where 16-year-old men were married and waiting for their second or third child. We're talking about a day and age where 16-year-olds were heads of households, and at times they were kings. And we're told that this 16-year-old, healthy youth was being treated like an incapacitated child.
What do you think? No, as intelligent people who think, use their head. the son, your only son.
Now the Bible also supports a Muslim position regarding Ishmael being the sacrificial son. I will quote to you the following passage. Genesis chapter 22 says the following. God said, "Take your son, your only son who you love, Isaac." According to Strong's Concordance, the word Yahid was seen by the ancient Jews to mean only begotten son, as the theological word book of the Old Testament confirms. Also, according to Gesenius' lexicon, the word Yahid means only, especially only begotten or only child. Hence, the way an ancient Jew would read this passage is in the following way. Take your son, your only begotten son. When was Isaac the only begotten son of Abraham? If Ishmael was 14 years older than Isaac, then this means that for 14 years, Ishmael was the one and only begotten son of Abraham.
What do you think? No, as intelligent people who think, use their head.
Let's just see logically which one fits the story better of who the sacrificial son is. I'd just like to give an example first. Imagine there was a man who from the age of 20, he's always wanted a Ferrari. Imagine that. And he saved for years, and he reaches the age of 86 and he finally buys a Ferrari. But then when he buys the Ferrari, God tells him he must give that Ferrari to charity. He is going to be heartbroken. It's going to be so hard to part from this Ferrari because he's been saving up to get this Ferrari since his 20s. It'll be a very difficult test. And if he does give that Ferrari to charity, he's a very good person. Now imagine if from the age of 20 he's been saving up to get a Ferrari, and by the age of 80 or 90 he managed to buy 2 Ferraris, and then God tells him give one of those Ferraris to charity. Will that hurt him as much? Will that be as big a test? Because if he gives that Ferrari to charity, he's still got the other Ferrari to take on the motorway. So even from this perspective, Abraham was childless for years. He finally reaches his 80s and God gives him a son. Now, if God told him to sacrifice that son that he got after all these years, that would be the ultimate test for Abraham. But if Abraham had 2 sons at that time and God told him to sacrifice one, he would still have in the back of his mind that he's got another son. And according to Genesis, it's clear that Abraham loved Ishmael, despite what the people of the book tried to claim.
What do you think? No, as intelligent people who think, use their head. That's the same answer in every Arab country. They fake the Torah. They modify the Torah. It used to be Ismael. God said to Abraham to take Ishmael to the Akedah, to the sacrifice. The Jews erased it and they made it Yitzchak.
قولوا آمنا بالله وما أنزل إلينا وما أنزل إلى إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق ويعقوب والأسباط وما أوتي موسى وعيسى وما أوتي النبيون من ربهم لا نفرق بين أحد منهم ونحن له مسلمون.
There is only one God, La ilaha illallah.